Admit it. The Strange Tale of Depsey, the Rabbit. Chapter 25. The Blood Education. Not Depsey studied his reflection with the critical eye of a craftsman perfecting his masterpiece. The oversized yellow shoes gleamed with unnatural luster, polished to a sheen that real cartoon leather could never achieve. His red bow tie sat at a geometrically perfect angle, not the slightly crooked charm of the original Depsey, but an optimized version that drew the eye with calculated precision. He practiced the smile. Teeth exposure, 73% of maximum. Lip curl, 2.3 millimeters at each corner. Eye crinkle, sufficient to suggest warmth without biological inefficiency. The original Depsey's expressions had been chaotic, responding to genuine emotion with unpredictable variation. Not Depsey's face operated on proven algorithms of persuasion. "Buck teeth forward," he murmured, adjusting the angle. "Maintain 15-degree head tilt during moments of manufactured vulnerability. Eye contact duration, 1.7 seconds for trust, 0.4-second breaks to avoid intensity threshold." His reflection satisfied him. The original had been too reactive, too honest, too limited by authentic feeling. Not Depsey represented evolution. All the appealing elements of Depsey's personality, without the inefficient complications of genuine moral consideration. A knock at the dressing room door interrupted his calibration. "Enter." Mr. Mystery's tall form filled the doorway, his perfectly tailored suit somehow remaining pristine despite the underground chamber's dust and moisture. His red eyes reflected the vanity lights in ways that suggested they operated on principles beyond normal optical physics. "Status report," Mr. Mystery said, his voice carrying harmonics that made the mirror vibrate. "Performance parameters optimized," Not Depsey replied, turning from his reflection. "Micro-expression algorithms updated based on last week's audience response data. Persuasiveness increased by 12% through enhanced eye contact protocols." "Good." Mr. Mystery consulted a tablet that displayed scrolling data in languages that predated human writing. Today's broadcast reaches unprecedented scope. 3,000 homes, 14,000 individual subjects, mass audience engagement across all demographics. The viewers, Not Depsey confirmed, primary corruption vectors. Precisely. Dr. Dinglegreen reports the enhanced ink tonic formula has been distributed to all vendors. Today we accelerate Phase 2, transitioning subjects from passive consumption to active bloodlust cultivation. Not Depsey's smile widened with mechanical precision. They'll learn to enjoy the suffering. More than enjoy. They'll crave it, demand it. And their companions, Mr. Mystery's expression suggested satisfaction beyond human capacity for pleasure, will approve enthusiastically. Family groups, friend circles, entire communities bonding over shared celebration of systematic harm. They descended together through passages that shouldn't exist beneath a simple theater. The underground chamber sprawled in directions that violated the building's above-ground dimensions, filled with broadcasting equipment that pulsed with blue light and hummed with frequencies that made cartoon physics unstable. Dr. Dinglegreen stood at the central monitoring station, his unnaturally tall posture bent over screens displaying real-time corruption metrics. His needle-sharp teeth gleamed as Mr. Mystery and Not Depsey approached. "Gentlemen," Dr. Dinglegreen rasped, his voice carrying the satisfaction of a surgeon preparing for a particularly interesting operation. "The subjects are primed. Empathy reduction holding steady at 34%, moral consideration down 41%, compliance up 58%. Insufficient," Mr. Mystery observed, studying the data. "We've reached the plateau. Time to accelerate." Dr. Dinglegreen gestured to a row of glass bottles filled with purple-black liquid that seemed to move independently of the containers. Today's formula includes compound 7B. Neural pathway modification happens within minutes of consumption. Violence appreciation increases by 300% with corresponding suppression of distress responses. Side effects? Not Depsey asked, more from procedural requirement than concern. Enhanced dependency, obviously. Subjects will require increasing doses to maintain effect, but that's optimal. Creates sustainable revenue stream while deepening corruption. Dr. Dinglegreen selected a bottle, holding it up to the blue light. The liquid inside writhed like something alive. Groups attending together reinforce each other's responses. Family dynamics, friend groups, social circles, all learning to celebrate systematic harm collectively. Mr. Mystery moved to the wall of screens, the vast monitoring array showing real-time feeds from thousands of homes where audiences prepared for this morning's special broadcast. Cartoon faces reflected the blue glow of broadcasting equipment, viewers moving with the vacant precision of thoroughly corrupted subjects. Phase 2 marks critical transition, Mr. Mystery said, his voice carrying the weight of centuries of systematic exploitation. We've taught them to watch without feeling. Now they learn to enjoy the suffering. Eventually, his red eyes blazed with predatory anticipation. They'll participate actively in the corruption. Audiences become our agents, spreading the system through their communities, demanding increased violence, normalizing systematic harm. The self-sustaining cycle, not Depsey confirmed. Exactly. Mr. Mystery turned from the screens, his full attention focused on his two collaborators. Today's performance must be perfect. We're teaching them to crave cartoon destruction, to find pleasure in enhanced suffering, to bond with their companions over shared enjoyment of systematic cruelty. Dr. Dinglegreen's teeth glinted. I've prepared a live enhancement demonstration for the second act. Show them the process. Make it seem educational and beneficial. By the time we're finished, they'll be requesting enhancement for themselves. Not Depsey felt something approaching excitement, or rather, his programming's optimized simulation of that emotion. The script includes escalating violence sequences, each presented as innocent entertainment. By intermission, they'll be desperate for more. Good. Mr. Mystery checked his antique pocket watch, its hands moving in directions that defied temporal logic. 30 minutes to curtain. The weasel vendor has his instructions. Briefed and positioned, Dr. Dinglegreen confirmed. He'll sell the enhanced ink as enhanced viewing experience. The audiences are already conditioned to want it. We've been building demand for weeks. They ascended to the theater's backstage area, where enhanced performers moved through pre-show routines with mechanical precision. Each one bore the subtle wrongness that Dr. Dinglegreen's modifications created. Movements too fluid, expressions too controlled, eyes that reflected light in ways that suggested technological augmentation rather than organic tissue. In the lobby beyond the stage curtains, audiences were beginning to arrive. Voices carried the eager anticipation of subjects conditioned to crave their daily dose of systematic corruption. Cartoon citizens spoke in the measured tones of thoroughly compliant participants in their own exploitation. Not Depsey took his position in the wings, watching the gathering crowd through a gap in the curtains. So many faces, all primed and ready for the next phase of their education. All learning to become the next generation of willing participants, perpetuating the system, spreading the corruption, ensuring the cycle continued indefinitely. Showtime, Mr. Mystery whispered, his voice carrying across dimensional boundaries to reach every enhanced performer, every broadcasting screen, every corrupted audience member gathering for this morning's special event. Not Depsey stepped toward the stage, his yellow shoes making no sound against the polished wood. His perfect smile was already in place, calculated to inspire trust while delivering systematic harm. The curtain began to rise. The lobby of Blame It. On the Ink Playhouse buzzed with the eager energy of audiences pursuing their Saturday morning entertainment ritual. But the cartoon vendor's cart drew the longest line, a wiry weasel in a striped vest presiding over his display of purple-black bottles with the enthusiasm of someone selling salvation. "Step right up! Step right up!" His voice carried hypnotic undertones that made viewers reach for wallets without conscious decision. Depsey's Special Ink Tonic. Fresh batch, extra special formula. Enhance your viewing experience with deeper perception. A young rabbit tugged her companion's sleeve. "Can I try the enhanced formula today? Everyone says it makes the show incredible." Her friend, eyes carrying the glassy focus of broadcasting compliance, smiled with mechanical warmth. "Well, if everyone's trying it..." "Oh, it's very popular," the weasel assured them, accepting payment with practiced efficiency. "Today's formula is particularly intense. Really helps viewers understand the complete picture." The rabbit seized the first bottle with eager paws, tilting it back immediately. The purple-black liquid slid down her throat like liquid shadow. Her eyes widened, pupils dilating as compound 7B reached her neural pathways. Within seconds, her entire demeanor shifted. Posture more alert, focus more intense, expression carrying a hunger that cheerful entertainment shouldn't inspire. "Whoa," she whispered, staring at her hands as enhanced perception activated. I can see the way things really work." "That's the enhanced experience," her companion replied, their own compliance dose ensuring approval of anything their friend experienced. "Now let's find our seats. We don't want to miss the special demonstration." Across the lobby, similar scenes repeated. Viewers eagerly consuming enhanced ink, companions proudly facilitating shared experiences, audiences bonding over collective participation in systematic harm. The weasel vendor's cart emptied rapidly, dozens of bottles distributed among subjects primed for Phase 2 acceleration. The theater filled with the sound of excited chatter, but Chuck, watching from his hidden position in the upper balcony, could hear the wrong notes in the melody. The audience's laughter carried edges of something predatory. Conversations about enhanced viewing had the rehearsed quality of thoroughly programmed responses. "Lucy," he whispered, his yellow body pressed against the velvet curtains. "Look at their eyes. Everyone who drank that ink. There's something wrong with their eyes." Lucy leaned forward carefully, her porcelain surface reflecting the theater's warm lighting. Below them, audiences settled into seats, but the viewers who'd consumed enhanced ink sat with unnatural stillness, their gazes fixed on the stage with laser focus. "They're waiting for something," Lucy murmured. Like they're hungry." The house lights dimmed, and broadcasting equipment throughout the theater hummed to life. Blue light pulsed from screens mounted at strategic intervals, creating a resonance frequency that made Chuck's cartoon physics feel unstable. In homes across the city, 3,000 audiences settled in front of their own screens, ready for the special broadcast. The curtain rose. Not Depsey bounded onto the stage with cheerful energy that looked exactly right, but felt fundamentally wrong. His buck teeth gleamed. His yellow shoes squeaked against the polished floor. His red bow tie fluttered with each exaggerated movement. To an innocent observer, he was simply Depsey, beloved cartoon character, trusted friend, wholesome entertainer. But Chuck could see the calculated precision in every gesture, the mechanical timing behind each smile, the cold efficiency hidden beneath the warm performance. "What a perfectly wonderful day for an adventure," Not Depsey declared, his voice carrying that familiar friendly tone that made audiences lean forward with trust. Other performers joined him. A cartoon elephant, a cheerful teacup, a bouncing ball with a painted face. They launched into classic slapstick routines. Exaggerated pratfalls, comedic collisions, pies thrown with theatrical flair. The audience responded with laughter, companions smiling at the innocent entertainment, viewers giggling at the familiar gags. But the broadcasting equipment was already working, amplifying certain elements while suppressing others. When the elephant slipped on a banana peel, the cameras lingered on his expression. Not just surprise, but genuine distress. The slow-motion replay emphasized the impact, the discomfort, the moment of authentic pain beneath the cartoon physics. The viewers who'd drunk enhanced ink sat up straighter. Their laughter changed, louder, hungrier, carrying notes of anticipation rather than simple amusement. Again, a voice called from the third row, "Make him fall again." Not Depsey's smile widened fractionally. "Well, if the audience wants more..." The gags escalated. The elephant's second fall took longer to recover from. The teacup's collision with a door wasn't just comedic. The crack in her porcelain was visible, real, emphasizing damage rather than resilience. The bouncing ball's deflation happened gradually, his painted face showing distress as he slowly collapsed. Companions began leaning forward, their compliance-dosed minds processing the violence as engaging content. The viewers' laughter grew more enthusiastic with each escalation. "Do it harder!" Someone in the front row shouted, eyes reflecting blue screen light. Not Depsey obliged. The next sequence involved a cartoon anvil dropping on performers with increasing force. The first impact was classic cartoon comedy, compression and recovery. The second showed the recovery taking longer. The third emphasized the struggle, the effort, the pain of returning to normal shape. By the fourth impact, the audience was cheering. Chuck gripped the balcony railing, his cartoon hands trembling. "Lucy, they're teaching them to enjoy it. They're making violence entertaining." "Not just entertaining," Lucy whispered, horror creeping into her voice. "Look at the whole crowd. They're all smiling. They think this is good entertainment." The performance continued its systematic escalation, each gag more violent than the last, each recovery more difficult, each moment of suffering amplified by broadcasting equipment that seemed designed to extract maximum impact from cartoon pain. The enhanced performers executed their roles with mechanical precision, their own modifications preventing them from showing the distress they must have felt at participating in their own exploitation. Not Depsey orchestrated it all with cheerful efficiency, making systematic cruelty seem like innocent fun. "Wasn't that wonderful?" he asked the audience after a particularly brutal sequence where three performers collided in ways that violated normal cartoon physics. The audience's response was thunderous approval. Viewers applauded with growing enthusiasm. In 3,000 homes, audiences watched screens that showed faces reflecting blue light, learning to find pleasure in systematic harm. The lights dimmed for intermission, and the theater erupted in excited chatter. But Chuck could hear the wrong words in their conversations, viewers discussing their favorite moments of suffering, companions praising the intense experience of watching cartoon characters struggle and hurt. The lobby filled again as audiences rushed toward the weasel vendor's cart, which had been mysteriously restocked. "More ink. I need the full experience for the second act." "My friend tried 3 bottles last week and said it was incredible." The weasel said the second act has something even more intense. "Did you see when the elephant couldn't get up? That was the best part." Behind the stage, Dr. Dinglegreen prepared his demonstration equipment while Mr. Mystery monitored broadcasting signals that carried corruption into thousands of homes. Not Depsey's performance had been flawless. Violence normalized, suffering celebrated, systematic harm presented as wholesome entertainment. Phase 2 was proceeding exactly as designed. The second act opened not with Not Depsey, but with Mr. Mystery himself taking the stage. His tall form commanded attention with the gravity of someone accustomed to being obeyed across dimensions. The audience fell silent, even the enhanced ink viewers, their predatory attention focusing on this new presence with unnerving intensity. Friends, beloved audience, Mr. Mystery's voice carried harmonics that bypassed conscious thought and spoke directly to deeper brain structures. Today we have something very special for you. Content that will help you understand the wonderful world of enhancement. The word enhancement rippled through the audience like electricity. Viewers who'd been exposed to broadcasting propaganda knew this term. It represented power, efficiency, optimization. Audiences processed it as cutting-edge content, worthy of Saturday morning attention. Would you like to see? Mr. Mystery continued, his red eyes sweeping across the eager faces. How we make our performers even better. The response was enthusiastic, unanimous, terrifying in its eagerness. Yes! Dr. Dinglegreen emerged from the wings, his unnaturally tall form carrying the white-coated authority of medical expertise. Behind him, two enhanced performers dragged a third, a cartoon squirrel whose eyes showed desperate awareness beneath his mechanical modifications. This is Nutkin, Dr. Dinglegreen announced, his needle-sharp teeth gleaming under stage lights. He's been serving our organization for several weeks, but lately he's been experiencing some problematic behaviors. Chuck felt his entire being go cold. They were going to do this in front of an audience, in front of viewers who'd come for entertainment, as a public demonstration. The squirrel was secured to what Dr. Dinglegreen cheerfully described as an optimization chair, a device that looked medical and friendly until you noticed the restraints, the monitoring equipment, the injection ports positioned for maximum invasive access. Nutkin has been showing residual emotional responses, Dr. Dinglegreen explained in the tone of someone discussing fascinating science. Moments of what we call inefficient humanity. Watch his eyes right now. See that fear? That's exactly what we need to correct. The audience leaned forward. The viewers who'd drunk enhanced ink were practically vibrating with anticipation. Companions watched with the focused attention of people witnessing compelling content. The enhancement process is quite elegant, Dr. Dinglegreen continued, preparing injection systems with practiced efficiency. We introduce specialized compounds that optimize neural pathways, suppressing counterproductive responses while amplifying useful behaviors. Will it hurt him? A voice asked, not with concern, but with curiosity. Dr. Dinglegreen's smile widened. Oh yes, the transformation process involves significant discomfort. But the result, perfect compliance, optimal efficiency, complete dedication to service, makes temporary suffering worthwhile, wouldn't you say? The audience murmured agreement. Viewers nodded. Eyes reflected blue light as they watched with hungry fascination. The injection began. Nutkin's transformation happened in real time, broadcast to thousands of homes through equipment designed to amplify every moment of systematic dehumanization. His eyes went from desperate awareness to mechanical emptiness. His struggles against restraints weakened, then stopped. His expressions shifted from pain to acceptance to perfect blank contentment. Fascinating, Dr. Dinglegreen narrated, as if describing a botanical demonstration rather than personality destruction. Notice how the resistance fades. That's the optimization taking effect. Soon Nutkin will be a perfect servant. All the useful capabilities of his original personality. None of the inefficient complications of moral consideration or emotional attachment. The audience watched with rapt attention. Some viewers took notes, actually documenting the process, as if witnessing systematic torture was noteworthy content. Companions smiled with vacant approval, processing the demonstration as intense entertainment. When the injection was complete, Nutkin sat motionless in the optimization chair, his eyes empty but his posture perfect. Dr. Dinglegreen released the restraints. "Nutkin, what is your purpose?" "To serve the organization with optimal efficiency," the squirrel replied, his voice carrying the flat affect of complete personality suppression. "All individual desires have been superseded by dedication to systematic goals." The audience applauded. Viewers cheered. Companions exchanged satisfied looks. The entertainment was delivering exactly what they wanted. Mr. Mystery stepped forward again, his presence commanding renewed attention. "And now, friends, I have a question. Would you like to see enhancement performed on someone who doesn't initially want it?" The question hung in the air like poison gas. Chuck felt his cartoon physics destabilize with horror at what was being asked, and at what the answer would be. "Yes!" the audience shouted, voices carrying bloodlust that entertainment seekers shouldn't possess. "Show us! We want to see the whole process!" Companions laughed, actually laughed at the crowd's enthusiasm. Such engagement, such investment in the content. Mr. Mystery's smile suggested satisfaction beyond human capacity for pleasure. "Well, that's exactly what Phase 3 will demonstrate. But first..." The Lucy grabbed Chuck's arm with trembling porcelain fingers. "Chuck, we have to stop this, right now. These are real people learning to enjoy torture." "I know," Chuck whispered back, his scientific mind trying to process systematic evil presented as Saturday morning entertainment. The origin film, if we can show them how this started, if we can break the worship cycle, we have to try. They moved together toward the projection booth they'd prepared, where the silent film reel waited to reveal the truth about Mr. Muffin's original betrayal and the pattern that spawned all subsequent corruption. On stage, Mr. Mystery was concluding his demonstration, planting seeds for future horrors. Next week, we'll have even more special content. Perhaps some of you might want to volunteer for... Stop! Chuck's voice cut through the theater's audio system as he seized the microphone in the projection booth. Every head turned, every eye focused on the balcony where he and Lucy stood silhouetted against the projector light. "This is systematic abuse," Chuck shouted, his voice carrying desperate courage. "That thing on stage wearing Depsey's face isn't even real. This entire operation is designed to corrupt you all." The film began rolling, projecting onto the screen behind the stage, images of Joko and Mr. Muffin's innocent friendship, the picnic at the coast, the moment of original betrayal. "This is how it started," Lucy called out, her voice amplified through broadcasting equipment they'd hijacked. "One creation wanting power more than love, choosing cosmic significance over friendship. And now they're teaching you to make the same choice." Mr. Mystery's expression shifted for the first time all morning. Genuine shock at being challenged, followed by cold fury. Silence them. But the command wasn't directed at enhanced performers or security systems. It was directed at the audience. The viewers stood first, moving with synchronized precision that suggested systematic conditioning rather than spontaneous action. Their faces carried the predatory focus of hunters sighting prey. "They're trying to ruin our show," someone in the front row announced, voice carrying the flat affect of programmed response. "They want to take away our entertainment," another added, eyes reflecting blue screen light. "Get them!" Dozens of voices chorused together. "They're trying to stop our experience." And the companions, the friends who should have questioned systematic violence, who should have recognized abuse when it was presented as entertainment, who should have protected truth-tellers, the companions joined the crowd. "Stop disrupting our viewing experience. You're interfering with our entertainment. We came here for this content." The mob surged toward the balcony stairs, not with supernatural speed or enhanced capabilities, but with the terrible efficiency of ordinary audiences transformed into systematic enforcers of their own corruption. Viewers leading the charge with enthusiastic bloodlust, companions following with vacant approval, entire groups united in defense of the system that was destroying them. Chuck and Lucy ran. The backstage corridors of Blame It on the Ink Playhouse had always been familiar territory, a maze of props and costumes and rigging that Chuck had navigated thousands of times during years of performances. But pursued by dozens of corrupted audience members, the theater transformed into hostile territory, where every shadow might conceal reaching hands with predatory intent. "Third door on the left," a voice called out behind them, followed by the thunder of feet pursuing with systematic coordination. Chuck dove through a prop storage area, old backdrops and set pieces providing temporary cover. His yellow body pressed against a painted forest scene while footsteps approached with terrifying precision. "Check behind the backdrops." That was a measured voice, calm and methodical. "Remember your search patterns." Patterns. They'd been trained for this. Broadcasting hadn't just corrupted audiences, it had organized them into efficient hunting parties. Chuck scrambled through the props, emerging near the costume racks where Lucy had taken refuge moments before. Her porcelain surface caught reflections of stage lighting, making her position dangerously visible. There. The teacup. A voice, excited rather than malicious, as if hunting sentient beings was just another engaging activity. Lucy fled toward the loading dock, her fragile body making every near miss terrifying. Viewers appeared from side corridors with unnatural coordination, cutting off escape routes with tactical precision their entertainment backgrounds shouldn't enable. "Don't break her yet!" a voice called out with disturbing enthusiasm. "We want her intact for the demonstration." Chuck and Lucy's paths converged near the stage door, their original exit now blocked by audience members who'd positioned themselves with systematic efficiency. Through gaps in the curtains, they could see Mr. Mystery and Dr. Dinglegreen watching their flight with clinical interest, taking notes about pursuit effectiveness rather than participating directly. The system didn't need supernatural intervention. The audiences were doing the work themselves. "Building C!" Chuck gasped as they burst through a side exit into the street beyond. "The old rehearsal space, we can hide there!" But the hunt didn't stop at the theater doors. Broadcasting speakers throughout the entertainment district crackled to life. "Attention citizens, 2 disruptive elements fleeing Blame It on the Ink Playhouse. Subjects attempting to interfere with public entertainment. All viewers report sightings. Cartoon City's streets filled with responding crowds. Audience members emerged from buildings with the eager energy of subjects given permission to hunt. Companions followed with organizing efficiency, creating search grids and communication networks." Chuck and Lucy ran through back alleys, using knowledge from their investigation work to navigate less traveled routes.
Make it stop!
But broadcasting screens on every corner displayed their faces, and the hunting parties seemed to know their location before they reached it. "Subject heading toward Old District," someone called out behind them. "Coordinate with Western Search Party," another responded, phone to ear. The crowds weren't just chasing, they were herding, pushing Chuck and Lucy toward specific locations, controlling their flight path with systematic precision. Near a corner storefront, Chuck risked a glance at a broadcasting screen and understood their true situation. The screens weren't just showing their faces. They were displaying real-time tracking data, position markers, predicted routes. The audiences weren't hunting blind. They were following computational guidance that made escape nearly impossible. A group of viewers rounded a corner ahead, moving with predatory coordination. Chuck and Lucy dodged into another alley, hearing voices behind them discussing tactics like seasoned hunters. "They'll try for the condemned buildings. You take the north entrance." "I can smell the ink on them. They're using it for protection." Lucy's porcelain body showed hairline cracks from stress and near misses. Chuck's yellow paint was scuffed, his perpetual smile feeling more like a grimace. They were exhausted, terrified, running from an enemy that shouldn't exist. Ordinary audiences transformed into weapons of systematic corruption. Building C loomed ahead. The old rehearsal space where they'd once practiced innocent performances, now offering potential refuge from impossible pursuit. Chuck spotted the hidden entrance he'd discovered during investigation work, a gap in the foundation that larger bodies couldn't easily access. "There!" he gasped, pointing. Behind them, the hunt intensified. Voices carried bloodlust enthusiasm. "They're going into the condemned building." Other voices provided tactical coordination. "Surround it! Cover all exits!" Broadcasting speakers confirmed their position to every corrupted audience member in the district. Subjects cornered in Building C, Old Entertainment District. Maintain perimeter. They will emerge eventually. Chuck and Lucy squeezed through the foundation gap, dropping into the darkness of the basement, just as searching hands reached the entrance behind them. They pressed themselves against concrete walls, hearing footsteps above. Voices discussing optimal siege tactics. Viewers excitedly anticipating the capture. "When they come out," a voice drifted through floorboards. "Can we watch Mr. Dinglegreen enhancement them?" "Absolutely," another replied with vacant approval. "It'll be incredible content." In the darkness, Chuck and Lucy processed what had just happened. They'd attempted to expose systematic evil and been hunted by its victims. They'd tried to protect audiences and been pursued by those same viewers. The entire confrontation had been inverted. Truth-tellers fleeing from crowds who'd been taught that corruption was entertainment, that violence was engaging content, that systematic harm was worthwhile viewing experience. "Chuck," Lucy whispered, her porcelain surface barely visible in the basement's gloom. "Those were ordinary viewers, hunting us, with organized coordination." "The entire system is self-sustaining now," Chuck replied quietly, his scientific mind trying to process the impossible inversion. Audiences corrupting audiences, viewers teaching viewers, the crowd defending the system that exploits them. Above them, footsteps moved with patient persistence. The building was surrounded. Broadcasting screens visible through cracks showed their faces with wanted designations, transforming them from entertainers into enemies of public entertainment. In Chuck's hands, the film reel of Joko and Mr. Muffin's origin story remained intact. Evidence of how systematic corruption began with one choice to value power over love. But that evidence meant nothing to audiences that had been taught to celebrate the pattern rather than resist it. Lucy's crown had lost several decorative elements during their flight. Chuck's trademark black bowler hat was missing. They looked less like beloved entertainers and more like exhausted refugees from a war where the enemy was everyone they'd once tried to protect. "We can't fight that," Lucy said finally, exhaustion making her voice hollow. "We can't fight everyone." "No," Chuck agreed, listening to the sounds of systematic siege above them. "But we can hide. We can survive. And maybe..." He trailed off, uncertain how to complete the thought. "Maybe what?" "Maybe we can find the real Depsey, if he still exists. If that thing on stage hasn't completely replaced him." "How will we know?" Lucy asked the question that would haunt them through all their hiding. "How will we know it's really him? That thing was perfect, Chuck. Every detail exact. If Depsey returns, how will we trust it's not just another trap?" Chuck had no answer. In the darkness, surrounded by audiences that had been systematically corrupted into weapons, they faced a truth more horrifying than any cosmic entity or supernatural evil. The system had turned ordinary people into its defenders. Viewers approved of systematic violence. Audiences hunted truth-tellers with enthusiastic efficiency. Communities bonded over shared participation in systematic harm. And somewhere out there, wearing Depsey's face with perfect precision, something that wasn't their friend, continued teaching new lessons in corruption to audiences eager for the next phase of their entertainment. Above them, voices discussed optimal waiting strategies. Broadcasting screens updated their last known location to a 3-block radius. The siege settled into patient efficiency. Corrupted audiences perfectly willing to wait days if necessary for their prey to emerge. Chuck and Lucy would have to become invisible, undetectable, paranoid about anyone claiming to be their friend. Because in a world where entire audiences had been transformed into systematic enforcers of their own exploitation, trust itself had become a weapon, and friendship had become the most dangerous vulnerability of all. Time passed in the basement darkness. Chuck couldn't say how long. Minutes felt like hours when every sound above suggested discovery, every footstep a potential threat. The siege had seemed eternal, audience members positioned with patient efficiency around every exit, voices discussing optimal waiting strategies. But then something shifted. "Why are we here?" A voice from above, uncertain rather than predatory. "What were we doing?" "I don't feel right," another voice, confused. "My head, what happened?" Chuck and Lucy exchanged glances in the darkness. The voices above were changing, the flat affect of programmed response being replaced by genuine confusion, the systematic coordination dissolving into disoriented chaos. "I feel sick," someone said weakly. What were we doing? Why were we hunting? A voice trailed off as memory returned without the ink's enhancement. "Oh God, what did we do?" More voices joined the confusion. Viewers realizing they'd been hunting cartoon characters. Companions beginning to understand what they'd just participated in. The predatory pack dissolving into frightened crowds, trying to comprehend what they'd done under chemical influence. "I didn't want to hurt anyone," a voice sobbed. We should leave. We shouldn't be here. We should never have been here." Through the floorboard cracks, Chuck watched shadows moving away from the building with stumbling uncertainty. Audiences dispersing not with the systematic efficiency of the hunt, but with the desperate flight of people escaping their own actions. Within 20 minutes, the street fell silent except for the distant hum of broadcasting equipment adjusting frequencies, recalibrating for the next phase. The ink had worn off, leaving only confusion and shame in its wake. Chuck and Lucy remained motionless, not trusting the silence. But as minutes stretched into an hour with no sounds of pursuit, no voices coordinating search patterns, they allowed themselves to believe the immediate danger had passed. Lucy was the first to speak, her voice barely audible. "Chuck, what just happened? Why did they stop?" "The ink formula," Chuck replied, his scientific mind processing what they'd witnessed. "Dr. Dinglegreen said it increases receptivity by 300%, but he didn't mention duration. It must wear off after sustained exposure. The audiences, they weren't hunting us by choice. They were drugged into compliance." "Does that make it better or worse?" Lucy asked quietly. "That they didn't choose it?" Chuck had no answer. The silence stretched between them, filled with the weight of everything they'd just survived, and everything they'd learned about how thoroughly the system could corrupt ordinary audiences when given the right chemical tools. They sat in the darkness for a long time before either spoke again. The basement's cold concrete provided minimal comfort, but it was safer than anywhere else in a city that had just demonstrated its capacity for systematic violence. Lucy was the one who finally broke the silence, her voice carrying an emotion Chuck couldn't quite identify. "I keep thinking about Depsey." Chuck's response was immediate and bitter. "The serial killer who murdered 43 of our friends? The real one, not that thing on stage." Lucy's porcelain surface caught faint light from a crack in the foundation. Our Depsey, even knowing what he did. I miss him. Is that terrible? Chuck opened his mouth to say yes, that missing a murderer was terrible, that they should be relieved he was gone. But the words wouldn't come. Because underneath his scientific rationality and moral outrage, he felt the same impossible longing. I miss him too, Chuck admitted quietly. And I hate myself for it. Why? Lucy turned toward him in the darkness. Why do we miss him? We know what he did. We saw the letters. We understand he eliminated cartoons. We know he's a monster. Depsey was just like those children, controlled externally. Depsey lived his life tortured by a system determined to ruin him. Not like that thing wearing his face. No, that thing has no conscience at all. It promotes enhancement with perfect enthusiasm because it doesn't understand why corruption is wrong. It teaches children to enjoy suffering because to something manufactured, suffering is just data to be optimized. Lucy's voice grew softer. Depsey murdered Mr. Muffins 20 years ago and has been haunted by it ever since. That thing on stage would have made it a teachable moment for children's educational programming. I keep thinking, Lucy continued, her words coming slowly as she worked through impossible contradictions, that if the real Depsey came back, maybe someone who knows evil from the inside could help us fight something that feels none. A murderer fighting murderers? Someone who understands guilt fighting something that's eliminated the concept entirely. Lucy's crown caught the faint light again. We saw what happens when evil becomes innocent, when systematic harm is presented as wholesome education. Maybe we need someone who knows the difference, even if that someone has done terrible things. Chuck considered this. His scientific mind rebelled against the logic. They shouldn't need a killer's help, shouldn't want a murderer's assistance, shouldn't miss someone who had betrayed them for 20 years. But the practical part of his nature, the part that had just survived being hunted by corrupted families, recognized an uncomfortable truth. We can't fight that thing on stage, he said finally. We can't fight Mr. Mystery or Dr. Dinglegreen or the broadcasting system. We're two cartoon characters trying to stop cosmic entities with centuries of experience in systematic corruption. But maybe someone who's been part of that system, someone who knows how it works from the inside. Someone who feels guilt instead of pride about participating in evil. They sat with that thought, processing the impossible hope that their friend, their murderer friend who had killed 43 performers, including people they loved, might be the only ally they had left against something far worse than individual crimes. If he comes back, Lucy said quietly, and that's a big if. How will we know it's really him? That thing on stage was perfect, Chuck. Every detail exact, every mannerism precise. If something approaches us claiming to be Depsey, how do we trust it? I don't know, Chuck admitted. But I keep thinking about what you said. Genuine evil knowing it's evil. The real Depsey would be guilty, ashamed, terrified of what he's done. That thing on stage had none of that. So we look for the guilt. We look for the weight. The real Depsey carries 20 years of suppressed conscience. You can't fake that kind of damage. Not perfectly. Lucy was quiet for a moment. What if he doesn't come back? What if that thing really did replace him completely? Then we hide, Chuck said simply. We survive. We document what we know. And we hope that somehow, somewhere, something exists that can stop families from being systematically corrupted into weapons.
That's not much of a plan.
It's the only plan we have. Above them, the city had returned to its normal rhythms, or what passed for normal in a world where broadcasting towers pulsed with corruption and enhanced performers served systematic evil. The families who had hunted him were presumably home now, trying to explain to themselves what they'd done, why they brought their children to watch live enhancement demonstrations, how they ended up surrounding a building with predatory coordination. The ink would wear off, but the memory of what they'd done under its influence would remain. And tomorrow, or next week, or next month, they'd return to the theatre for more educational entertainment. Because the system didn't need to force compliance. It just needed to make systematic harm, entertaining enough that families chose it willingly. Chuck. Lucy's voice was small in the darkness. Do you think the real Depsey is still alive somewhere? I don't know, but if he is, if he managed to survive whatever replaced him, I think he'd try to find us, despite everything, despite knowing we know what he is. Because we're the only friends he has left? Because we're the only people in this entire corrupted world who might understand the difference between hidden guilt and proud, systematic evil. They settled into exhausted silence, listening to the city above them continuing its transformation into something unrecognizable. Somewhere out there, not Depsey was presumably continuing his work, teaching new generations of children to celebrate corruption. Mr. Mystery and Dr. Dinglegreen were monitoring broadcasting metrics, celebrating centuries of effort reaching culmination. And thousands of families were processing what they'd done under chemical influence, trying to reconcile wholesome entertainment with systematic violence. But in the basement darkness, two cartoon characters held onto an impossible hope that their friend, the murderer, the serial killer who had eliminated 43 performers for blood money and cosmic protection, might be the only genuine thing left in a world of manufactured evil. And that somehow, his guilty conscience might be the weapon they needed to fight entities that had eliminated conscience entirely.